NFL fans. NFL draft season is in full swing. It is time. Welcome to the Legit Football NFL podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Phillip Fox. And if you're a longtime viewer of the podcast, then you already know the purple light means I'm back in my studio. A little bit more status quo for my life moving forward, which I was just talking to Adrian in the pre-show about. Couldn't be more excited. Speaking of Adrian, the man who needs no introduction, the scab's been ripped off. Our producer, my co-host, the man from Down Under, Adrian Ravito. Adrian, what's poppin', brother?
You know what? It feels like I feel normal having you back in the studio. Is that weird?
Yeah, I think so. No, I think it's completely normal.
I define my life on where you pod.
There's some sort of a weird, there's like a cohesion that I feel right now. Just being back. It's off season's in full swing. There's almost no time apart from free agency that's this exciting as the draft. Like that, like this
is the best.
And I don't know about you, Adrian, but my forehead's feeling a little warm. I saw a doctor. I'm diagnosed. I have draft fever.
100%.
I have draft fever, and it's a bad case. I'm doing this thing. I don't know about you. I'm kind of like oh wow, my Apple Watch just told me how to tell if you have a fever. It was a joke.
Thanks, Apple Watch.
Technology, it's too far. It's gone too far. Robots, tune out. Everybody, all the robots that are listening in our chat, get out, because I don't, this is a people only podcast. Armand is here in the chat. Our boy, one of the GOAT legit listeners, K Fox and A Rove. Let's go. We also have Titan Maximum, who's become a loyal attender of the podcast. 13 days until the draft. Let's go.
Accurate reading there.
That's the only level of excitement that I'll take. My draft fever is actually so out of control, Adrian, that I find myself Googling or like YouTubing like NFL mock draft round 1. And then I see that I've already watched them all. And I'm like, all right, let me just scroll until I find one I haven't seen.
Eventually. Well, next week you're going to have a new one, a live one potentially.
You know what? And I'm busting down the doors of our co-founder, Brian McFadden, to try to get him in one of these mock draft scenarios with us. He is actually, he let me know today, and it almost breaks my heart because I don't know if I'll be able to attend personally, but he is considering a live round 1 reaction pod with Legit. I have some prior engagement, some film stuff I have to do that day. So I'll be listening to the draft on an AirPod in my phone while I'm on set. If the director asks me to remove it, they might see a side of me they don't like. Yeah, my character really cares about the draft. So, so we have Titan Maximum 2. Well, we're right into it because Armand is calling out the smoke and mirrors, and we do know that is almost exclusively what the news that's coming out at this time. Almost exclusively is smoke and mirrors. We can't really trust a word that anybody says about anything right now. There were actually reports, Adrian, yesterday, as a Bills fan, and we haven't talked about it yet. So there's a lot of us, a lot for us to catch up on. But same day, I got two reports, Bleacher Report and Benjamin Solak. One was Bills looking to trade down. One was Bills are going to be aggressive to trade up. And I'm just like, yeah, that's Bean doing his thing. Getting those reports out on the same day is probably
it gets you calls from both. It gets you calls from people who want to trade up. It gets calls from people who want to trade down.
Keep your options open.
Play the media.
Yep. Keep your options open. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But that being said, we do have Titan Maximum, who is terrified that the Chargers are going to take Joe Alt. Little spoiler there for our segment today. I won't get into exactly why that's a spoiler, but Titan Maximum might have just called me out a little bit. Might have just
ditto.
A little foreshadowing. Oh, we might have the same ones then.
Yeah, we may. We
We used to compare notes. We're not in the comparing notes era right now, so there's a chance we have the same ones.
The off season.
We're in off season form too.
Building the plane as we fly it. We're
my favorite line.
Pants. All of the above, right?
I've stolen building the plane as we fly it, by the way, as like a personal edit. That's my line now.
Yeah, 100%. It's a Kevinism.
And exposing the bathrobe. Those are both things that I just said.
I often say building the players with flight as a metaphor for bad things out of this pod.
Yeah.
Because it's objectively a terrible way to fly, right? That is not the way you want to be flying. So
I would say yes.
Yeah, I use it at work a lot to explain how bad things are at the moment. But here in this world, it's amazing.
It's a beautiful thing. It's like the GMs. We're just keeping our options open,
I agree.
If our plane is too built prior to flying it, we can't add the new custom features that we want to make sure that it has.
Decals, the old loop.
The decals, yeah, bro.
Yeah.
So why don't we start off with whatever you envision starting off with? I have a feeling I
You're
know
gonna
what
hate
it is
this.
in my gut.
Oh,
Yeah.
there it is.
Yeah, so we haven't talked about it. So let's rip the Band-Aid off. So, and actually Adrian and I have had some spirited discussions on this podcast about this player, about the possibility of this trade. Adrian, you got that crow drop for me?
Oh, I had the wrong one. Here.
But that one's applicable too. So yeah.
I did think, and now hopefully it doesn't cut you out as it plays, but I think we need some sad music for this.
Yeah, some sad music. And I also want to say, you tell me if it's cutting me out, because I'll talk with the sad music. I like an underscore. So Stephon Diggs, Buffalo Bills, all-pro wide receiver. Formerly Kevin's second favorite player. The jersey that I owned, that I wore probably the second most frequently, has been traded to the Houston Texans for a 2025 second-round pick. Nothing else. Oh,
There was a pick trade.
And also right, yeah, and then also I think Buffalo might have threw him a sixth, and they got back or threw a fifth and got back a sixth. Ugly compensation. Not to mention, Adrian, the largest dead cap hit for any player that is not a quarterback in NFL history, which is why I was so steadfast that it wouldn't happen. Just like the Russell Wilson trade. Thinking, there's no way a team will eat $80 million in dead cap. There's no way a team will spend $31 million so that a guy isn't on their team. So that's what happened. And I think it speaks to Armand. I'm so thankful for you bringing this up, because it is something I have to heal through. I have to process. We'll be able to talk about it together. But I will say, I didn't think there was any way a team would spend money to get away from a player who theoretically makes them better. However, Adrian, I haven't been the biggest fan of the antics. Despite thinking that it was all just a show, and despite he was just being a diva, I thought it appeared to bubble over to the point where it was RG3 made a post about could Josh Allen be this great without Diggs? And somebody in the comments said, yeah, I think, Diggs makes him better, but I think he'd be great without him. And Diggs literally replied, are you sure about that?
That was it was like hours before the trade got announced as well. That's such a weird,
it just, I think it was one of the straws that broke the camel's back. I think he might have already known that he was on his way out. But to be honest with you, given the reports of the last handful of off seasons, he runs out of the locker room after the Cincinnati loss, after he screams at Josh Allen. He doesn't show up to OTAs the following year. And then this year, all the back and forth, the media circus, the scorched earth tours that he's been going on the last couple off seasons. Honestly, it's almost like when you are in a really toxic relationship and it's over and you're like, oh man, I'll miss that girl. We had good times. But also you're like, I can breathe again.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel right now in the aftermath of the Stephon Diggs trade. Being an anxious person, when I heard he skipped OTAs, when I heard him dragging my quarterback's name through the mud, which, by the way, Josh Allen never publicly returned fire. Josh Allen was always a consummate pro in the face of,
good guy, Josh.
Are you and Steph cool? Do you and Steph? He's my brother. I love him, yada, yada. Meanwhile, Steph, his wide receiver one, his alleged brother, is constantly throwing sand and dirt on Josh Allen's name. Such a shame to see Steph act that way and go out like this. Last thing people will remember of him in Buffalo is him dropping that beautiful dime that Josh threw that would have potentially given them the lead in the AFC divisional playoff game. It is what it is, right? Good riddance. I'm kind of at that point, unfortunately, despite loving him on the field and thinking that he was just eccentric. They just were over the top. It seems as though it was the right move. I think it's addition by subtraction.
Yeah. And it's interesting that they wiped the last years of his contract, the Texans. Can we address I want to address Armand's question here, because you love the Texans.
Yeah.
They're your boys.
That's the elephant in the room, right? So traded to the team that I historically have championed since becoming the host of this podcast. last offseason, my first full offseason covering the NFL, I absolutely adored the offseason moves the Texans made last year. Was very early on their hype train when it was CJ Stroud, Will Anderson, D'Amico Ryans, Devin Singletary, all the signings that they made last offseason. I'll wear that like a badge of honor. I'll put that completely, like, I'll victory lap that. Like, I called that, and they were every bit as good, if not better, than I thought they would be. And I enjoyed watching them play. And I have Stroud in fantasy, and now, the guy who I used to, now the girl I used to dance with is with my buddy.
Dancing with him. Yeah.
Dancing with my buddy. So I'm kind of like, I have to say, I think I still like the Texans. I'm gonna
That's
root for
big of
them
you.
a little less hard. I think I'm gonna lower them in my non-Bills favorite teams rankings. But I think it's great for CJ Stroud. Diggs is a great safety blanket, especially from weeks 1 to 11. Not as great in the second half of the year, and objectively been bad in the playoffs, especially elimination games. He's come up minuscule. So hopefully Nico Collins and Tank Dell can pick up the relay baton from Diggs once he decides to throw in the towel, which every year is around January.
I have an interesting question to pose on that.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you,
No,
but
please.
Diggs or Collins, who would you call the one there? Or is it a 1A, 1B situation?
I think objectively, like, I think you have to look at it as a 1A, 1B, right? Because Nico Collins, what he did last year was so dominant. Like, he was so special. And even Tank Dell, I mean, I don't think you can just disregard him to like the 2 or 3 role. I mean, they all have what they do really well. I think Nico best in the intermediate areas of the field. Tank Dell is going to be a down the field. I think Diggs, he profiles as a guy who can do it all. He just, man, you know what, Adrian, really quick. I don't, like I said, I don't think we've done a show since this trade. I statted out Diggs' last 10 games as a Buffalo Bill because I wanted to see what exactly we were losing. In his last 10 games as a Buffalo Bill, Adrian, Stephon Diggs per game stats, 4.7 receptions, 42 yards, and 0.1 touchdowns per game.
Look
on 8 targets a game. I know you said he was falling off. You said he was all over the cliff.
That's what I was going to say. I didn't want a victory lap because I know this is a tough time for you, but
Yeah,
I think that maybe when these sort of trades go down and you're like, what is going on? And the perfect example, you said Russell Wilson, right?
Right.
The perfect example is when Russell Wilson got traded away from the Seahawks, and everyone was like, yeah, they got a haul, which is fantastic. But Russell Wilson, Pro Bowl, All Pro Bowl,
QB, right?
Sometimes the teams just know a little bit more than we know about what's coming, and it's worth getting what you can now. I don't know if that's the case with the Bills because you didn't really bring in like a draft haul, but I think you're right in that it was addition by subtraction, and I think that him going to the Texans, he's going to find himself a little bit starved of targets because he's got other. He was always the number one in Bills. He was always number one in Bills. He's now kind of 1A, as you said. Tank Dell's got skills. What he does going for him, we haven't mentioned, is the Texans as I don't know if you want to call it a goodwill gesture, but they wiped off the last 3 years of his contract. So he's a free agent next year.
Yeah.
They may have him for 1 year.
I think their choice to do that was questionable because they did give up a second-round pick, which looked like a steal at the time. Wiping away the last 3 years of his deal, maybe it was contingent on the trade, but they traded a second-round pick for a rental, is the truth. And Diggs is going to be a free agent, and Armand mentioned it in the chat. He's going to Texas, but I think we all know what city in Texas Diggs wants to be in, given where his brother Trayvon Diggs plays.
Yeah.
So I don't really know if I love that trade long-term for the Texans. I think they're going all in, but it's like we've learned from every team not named the Chiefs what going all in looks like. You go all in, you go out, you sign a Von Miller. You go out and I'm trying to think of other all-in moves. I guess the Dolphins trading for Tyreek Hill, whatever. The Jets trading for Aaron Rodgers. If you don't hoist the Lombardi, the all-in moves in hindsight look dumb. Like, really, realistically, what you should do is try to stay competitive for as long as possible and hope to get lucky. That's the truth. And
100%.
Clearly, the Bills haven't gotten lucky, but neither have the Dolphins, neither have the Jets, neither have the Texans. They're saying maybe Diggs will help us be the thing that will push us over the edge. But I say to them, look at what he does in the playoffs. There was a rumor that he wanted to leave Buffalo because he didn't think they could get over the Kansas City hump. You put a competent wide receiver in that jump ball situation to win that game against Kansas City, the Bills might beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. He's the problem. One of the problems is gone. When you got allies.
It's so weird to hear you talk about Diggs this way.
But it's just reality, and
I'm reveling in it.
I know. Because you got to be loyal. You got to wear your colors. I'm gonna try to always see the best in the guys that I am lining up with every Sunday. But like I'm on the freaking team. But at the end of the day, you know me. I'm the mascot. But at the end of the day, you got to be realistic about this stuff. And as much as it pains me, like the fan of me is hurt, but the analyst in me is like, let's see what happens. We have. This is a perfect conversation that sort of transitions into what we're talking about today. And we have a lot of excellent comments in the chat. Titan Maximum 2, where the Bills are picking, the good wide receivers are likely gone. Maybe AD Mitchell will be there.
Love AD Mitchell.
I actually think I might love him too. I've been I hear a lot of both on him. Like, I feel like he's a very divisive prospect, which is kind of weird because from watching his tape, I don't see anything not to like. I'm not 100% sure why he's so divisive. Armand asks, and I'll pose this question to you because I got everything off my chest. I think for the Dig stuff, I had to just rant, and you let me, and I appreciate that. And the listeners let me. The 446 people who are watching live let me rant. So thank you guys. Thank you, Armand. Thank you, Titan Max.
That therapy.
I feel a lot better for having processed everything out in the open. Armand asks, does this trade make the AFC East wide open? Adrian.
I think that the AFC is open. I don't know if it's wide open. In fact, it's not wide open, Patriots, but like it's open. And the Bills have always been the Bills' spot to lose. I don't think this trade changes that because I think Brandon Bean, Sean McDermott are good enough to fill that. You hope that they would go get a piece to take Diggs' spot. They were working on Shakir, was looking fantastic. So he was working it up. Yeah. I don't think this changes the power balance in the AFC East. But look, the East has never been closed. I think it's been the Bills' spot to lose, but it's not that it's been impossible. If not for a miraculous run at the end of the last season, you guys wouldn't have taken the division. Would have been a wild card potentially. So or not in the playoffs at all. Respectfully. I don't think this makes it the AFC open. I think Armand, your Jets have still got a chance as long as Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy, and they've definitely done stuff to make that happen with the line. Yeah. The Dolphins are always going to be that kind of asset rich. They've got a coach who can scheme fantastically, and as long as Tua can stay healthy, which is their kind of wild card, they're going to be in with a chance. The Patriots for me are kind of snore this year, and we'll see you next year.
Yeah, I hate to be like a Debbie Downer on the Dolphins, but like, man, that dude number one needs to show us he can win in January, like straight up. Yeah. And McDaniels for that matter. I mean, they get such a pass for some reason, like because of their regular season success. And when I say regular season, I really mean September to November. But Adrian, did they not look just like out of sorts and hapless in that game against Kansas City? I know it was cold. I know it was like earth-bendingly, mind-numbingly cold, but man, like most AFC powerhouses play in cold weather. You're gonna have to win a cold game once in a while, Tua.
100%. I mean, look, you know what? There was I remember, and this is going back to the NFC divisional a couple years ago, where it was cold and the Packers were playing the 49ers, and it was like, 49ers can't win in the cold. Well, guess who smoked the Packers? I know because I'm salty about it. That's what championship teams do. Not the 49ers won that year, but you get through those games despite the weather. You practice in the cold.
Yeah.
What can you do, right? Like, so I agree. I'm not a Dolphins fan, and I said this to McFadden in one of our very first podcasts with the three of us.
Yeah,
that I wasn't sold on Tua, and I'm still to this day not sold on Tua. Like, if I have Tua, I don't know if I've got a franchise quarterback.
And it's crazy because it's like you'd rather have Tua than the alternative, right? Like you rather have Tua than say QB purgatory, where like all those teams are that are scrapping and clawing. Like I think the perfect example, and I said it last year. I said it 2 years ago when I thought, well, no, it was last year when I thought that the Giants should pay Daniel Jones. What's the alternative? Look at what it is to have Daniel Jones. I almost wonder if you wouldn't rather have the alternative. Like
no, I would. To me, so there's some players in the league, some quarterbacks where I would take the proven commodity over say a high draft pick. Like, and I'm talking kind of like a number one, even if it was like say number 6, right?
Yeah.
In Tua's case, I would take the draft pick. I don't, because
Yeah.
he's right on that border of like you've got to pay him
Yep.
well,
Well,
right? And then
he's
I know
been
there's
good.
contract.
He's had put up
Yeah,
numbers. That's important.
correct. So yeah,
Yeah.
but I just don't know if you can. And this is a Kevinism. I don't know if you can win because of him. You
Right.
may have to
Right.
win in spite of him.
Yeah. Which is like, yeah, you don't, especially in the cold winter months when it matters the most. Like, you don't want to be paying guys out the nose who can't go out there and win you a game in January. Like, say whatever you want to say about Josh Allen. I I'd like to say Justin Herbert, but he hasn't done it either. You
Yeah,
know,
I the Justin Herbert's a funny one actually. When we get to the draft, when we get to our main segment, I just gotta put a pin in that one. I got
yeah,
a
because
question on Justin.
I've been dragged at the stake for the Herbert stuff for me. Like, I can't, but I keep waiting. Everybody keeps telling me he's top 5, and I just keep waiting to see it. And okay, like, it's like the best kept secret, and I'm just not in on it. Maybe I just am never tuning in when he's being a top 5 QB. Maybe I'm the problem. You
He's
know,
nah, he's the it's always the eye test with Herbert. And he puts the stats up. It's what it is the win and loss column.
I
That's the problem with him.
eye test is great. I love eye test. You got to pass
Need
the
to
eye
be winning
test.
though.
Got
You gotta
but
be winning too.
exactly. So let's see here. We got a couple comments to get to before we move on. Yes, the Texans are insanely deep at wide
So
receiver,
deep.
and CJ Stroud is gonna eat this year. Oh my
You would
word.
call the Texans number 2 contender in the AFC, right?
Oh, no,
I can't see anyone that I think would be
no.
so. And this, you're always gonna say Bills.
I mean, what King of the Hill rules, man? What have they done to lose that spot other than trade away
That
their biggest liability?
Look, wow, but yeah, but also one of the biggest producers in the earliest. But
Yeah,
I agree with you. I think the Texans are probably the ones that are most poised. Okay, and let me phrase it differently.
can
King of
can
the Hill rules. Bills are number 2.
yeah, I think
All right,
so. Even the Bengals, I would put above the Texans
all right.
myself.
But
Yeah.
on paper, I would put the Texans as probably most poised based on what they did last year, based on what they've got and what they've added in the offseason. I would put them as most poised to be able to sort of take a run at the hill.
Yeah, for sure. That you can't be debated without question. Everything Mixon, I've always loved their defense. I love their pieces on defense. Let's see
But
here. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
no. I was gonna say I'm gonna look up who they've added in the offseason.
K Fox, how many wide receivers do the Bills draft to help fill the void of Diggs and Davis? I think 2. I think one thing we need to not forget is that we signed Curtis Samuel, Adrian's number 1 team to player free agency heart eye emoji move. And Jimmy too. I was the only one on the pod who wasn't, gush. I love the signing. I didn't gush over it. I think it's a good signing. I thought he would have been a great wide receiver too. I still hope that's the case. But we're looking at how many wide receivers? I think 2. I think you got to go personally, and this is something we'll get to. But I'm team trade up. I don't care about our first rounder next year. It's going to be a late pick anyway. The Bills haven't picked earlier than 28 in the last half decade, and those players just aren't really they're not adding much of it. What's the difference between pick 28 and pick 40, pick 50? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to keep being a contending, competing team, get your first rounders out of here. Go Les Snead fully. I personally am team trade up. I'd like an alpha at 1, and then there's like 15 wide receivers who have like top 3 grades.
There's so many good wide receivers.
Get me a guy in the second or third also, in addition to the first rounder that you take. And I don't, to be clear, Armand, I don't think Davis is a void at all. Once again, there were diminishing returns. When you have a top 2, one of them who's aging out and who underperforms later in the year, and a guy like Gabe Davis who has a low ceiling, there's diminishing returns. We're going to see the returns, hopefully getting Shakir some targets, upping Kincaid's workload. I think Kincaid's going to be the biggest beneficiary from that trade. And we'll see what happens. I will keep that moving. Titan Maximum, hard to argue that the Dolphins peaked last year, given how hard off the clip. But you know what, though? They're going to go 8-3 again. And people are going to be singing the Tua MVP song until the same crap happens. I'm sorry.
That old tune.
I don't
No,
mean
you're
to,
right. You're so right.
It is just a proven Dolphins formula. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I McFadden, any other Dolphins fans out there, don't hate me. It's just what they've shown us that they are. But when somebody shows you who they are, Adrian, you got to believe them.
I agree.
If they pay Tua Either Waddle or Tyreek might be
See,
out.
and this is my point, right? Because this is what I'm saying, I just don't know if I want Tua. Because if you lose Waddle or Tyreek to keep Tua, to me is a net loss. Like I understand the quarterback's the most important position. I understand he's put up the numbers, but I don't think you're winning championships because of him. And to me, I would rather look. I'd rather be. Look, it's hard to say because you don't want to dive into the unknown. But if I wanted, if God came down and is like, hey, you can have Tua as your QB1, about to sign a contract extension, or you can have the number 6 pick. I'm taking the latter. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, honestly, I think I'm with you on it, and it's hard to get there mentally, right? Because of all that he's accomplished and the regular season prowess and the like I said, the Tua for MVP chants. They're so loud in November. They always deafen. They always become deafening towards the end of the season. They always are on deaf ears towards the end of the season.
Yeah. And
And
it's also
Armand,
like, and you see so much failure in the draft. That's the part you're going to the unknown, which is always scary.
right, exactly. And you know what? I think you're right though, because wouldn't the Giants love to be in a position to draft their quarterback of the future instead of having to pin the tail on the
Oh,
dimes?
I always
God,
said the Dubs is a terrible
you
choice.
did. You did, and you're right.
And yes, that's who the Texans added, Daniel Hunter,
Huge,
which is another great addition. Yeah.
huge. So can't really be debated that the Texans are a huge threat in
One
the
of the better
AFC.
off seasons in
Oh
recent
yeah.
history.
Oh yeah.
One
But
of.
but but again though, let's remember they're renting a 31-year-old wide receiver for 1 year who averaged 47 yards and 4 catches and point 0.1 touchdowns over the last 10 games last year.
So
They're
to put a
renting
bow
that.
on the Diggs conversation end, because I know we've spent almost 30 minutes, but we're building the plane,
Yeah, there's
right?
ADD. We're everywhere. It's
We love
Texans,
it.
it's Dolphins, it's yeah.
I think that they wiped that contract as a kind of gesture of goodwill. You hope that gives him that that motivation to that. This is the in theory he gets the motivation to play better because he wants to get paid. And I think the Texans have got the cap room, and this is the beauty of a rookie QB, that if he plays well, you get a deal done early, and based on like that goodwill. Now you're right; he might end up with Cowboys, he might end up with his brother, but to me, he's still got juice in the tank. And maybe this, this happens sometimes. They go to a fresh place, fresh start, and it works out well. So if it does do that, I think the Texans get a deal done. I don't think that they will let him go, and especially if he's got chemistry with CJ Stroud. So it's a risky move to wipe the contract years. I agree with you there, but it might be one of those things we look back and be like, oh, the Texans are genius, or we might look back and be like, my God, the Texans are idiots.
Yeah, and ultimately, and this is where I think we have the excellent natural transition into our next discussion. I kind of always looked at that second round pick as fodder to get up into the top 10 in this year's draft.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm so excited to talk about because, Adrian, we have right around the bend our legit
Oh,
football.
I've got such a long. Say it
No,
again.
I didn't. Today on legit football, we have our long time since we've busted that out. Main topic is going to be dream prospect fits and our guys. We're doing a little combo thing.
Bit of both. Yeah.
But we got really essentially 30 minutes to just, in my opinion, every pod from now till the draft is we can just talk about the draft because I think we're all excited about it.
Totally.
The excitement in the NFL is at a fever pitch right now for this kind of stuff. Do want to just really quickly, hilariously point out Titan Maximum's parallels he draws between Tua and Kirk Cousins. Not enough to get you over the top. Hey, you said it.
So this is I'm gonna steal a little bit of copyrighted material here. There's a pod I listen to. I'm not gonna plug them because listen to our pod.
Yeah.
But they have this theory that when Andy Dalton was playing, he was the prime meridian of quarterback. So if you had a quarterback better than Andy Dalton, you had a franchise quarterback, and worse than Andy Dalton, you had to go find a new one. He was the exact mediocre. And now that new line has become the Kirk Cousins line.
Yeah.
Because he is that guy. He's like right on the cusp, and he has some games where he plays out of his mind, and he has some games where like, what's going on here?
I absolutely love the bit of Kirk Cousins just being perennial. But the thing is, though, I don't think it can even be debated anymore that he's above average.
He is, but I think it's kind of like that. The argument is that if you've got Kirk Cousins,
Yeah.
you're just not sure if you've got a guy that can win the Super Bowl for you, but he's also not good enough. He's too good to get rid of,
Right.
and that's why he's the middle line.
Yeah. Which is why paying Daniel Jones was So stupid in hindsight.
So dumb.
Maybe he
So
can
dumb.
maybe he can recapture some of that early Dayball magic. That's what the Giants are counting on. They won a playoff game, bro. Just 2 seasons
It-
ago.
he's gone after this year unless he balls out because their contract allows him to get rid of him after this year.
Yeah, probably. You're probably right.
So I think they draft a QB, put
Yeah.
it behind Daniel Jones, and put him behind Daniel Jones.
Honestly, I thought they should have done that. I honestly think they should do that this year. I don't know if they're still. I think it's the clock's ticking on it.
I think this year is going to happen. That's what I think. Even
You
if you
do?
get
You
one a
think
little
so?
bit later, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I think they should, but I don't know if they will. Is the question because I'm hearing. And this we'll just get right into it. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of Malik Neighbors to the Giants smoke. Are we buying that?
I mean, look, if you're going to give Daniel Jones a chance, you need to surround him with weapons. Malik Neighbors is absolutely up there.
Yeah,
Some people talk about him as number one over Marvin
yeah,
Harrison. Not a lot of it, but
right,
there's smoke there. I think, but the big three: Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, Rome Odunze, are seen widely as kind of can't miss prospects. Now that doesn't always work out, but
right.
I think it's a bad fit for Neighbors. I think you're going into like a pretty rough
Yeah,
situation,
right.
which is normally reserved for quarterbacks. Like normally the high pick quarterbacks go into a terrible situation. This is a unique one where you're going
Yeah,
to Daniel Jones as your QB, no Saquon Barkley. Their line was terrible. Like, yeah,
yeah. Honestly, no.
I hope not. I hope he doesn't get that.
You want to talk about dream fits? That to me, that's a nightmare fit. Like
Yeah,
I would
100%.
be so disappointed in the potential of Malik Neighbors as a pro if he starts his career with those circumstances. Like how many young, promising, talented wide receivers have we seen go to New York just to fizzle or just be completely non-factors? Like I've been banging the Wandale Robinson drum so hard my hand is bleeding, and I feel like what is there left of that hype train other than he's Cole Beasley? But pre Josh Allen, Cole Beasley. Like that's the Wandale. That's what we're left with Wandale now. He's 9 for 37 and no touchdowns. Like, yeah,
Oh, no,
yeah, I know. And so if Malik Neighbors
buddy.
goes there, I don't think it's much better. But let's wait and see. Adrian, why don't you kick us off with the number one team to prospect fit?
All right. So my number one team to prospect fit here is so I have two things to say about this one. So
Sure.
this I'm starting with, and this is assuming he doesn't get taken number 4, which he may. But with all the talk about trade up for a QB, if Marvin Harrison Jr. is available at number 5, I think the Chargers need to go for him. I think they've got no receiver. I know Titan Maximum. Was he talking about the Chargers?
He said he
Yes,
was
he was.
terrified that they would take Joe
Yeah,
Alt.
they need to go. They need to go for him. They've got no receiver room. Herbert needs someone to catch balls. Now I understand that Harbaugh wants to just run the ball. Like I get that, but you can't in this NFL. You need to be able to go through the air. I have a crazy like. All right, this is not going to happen, but I would love for this to happen. Yeah, what I would love. Imagine that the Chargers sent sent Herbert to the Vikings for their 2 number 1 picks, so 23 and 11, right?
Yeah.
You get JJ McCarthy at number 5. That's Harbaugh's guy, and then you've got 2 other first round picks to fill that wide receiver room. You reset that market, the contract's gone. To me, I would love for that to happen. I know it's not going to.
I was gonna say whatever they're smoking in Australia, man.
I
You
know
gotta
it's not
start
going to
laying
happen.
off it.
But all right, if you were a Chargers fan, would you do it?
No.
As a fan, no? You'd rather
No,
keep Herbert?
and I'm one of the biggest Herbert doubters on the planet, and I still think you have a sure thing, an alleged sure thing. You have somebody that can produce at the NFL level at a high level. Like whether or not it's top 5, obviously remains to be debated because I will continue to say he's not top 5. But you got and also I'm sure that on the books, I'm sure that would be a nightmare. Unless you get them to pay his salary, I'm sure the dead cap number is gross.
Look, you're right. I haven't even looked into that.
I like it. I love the scenario. I think, like I said, I mean, I said lay off the stuff you're smoking. Maybe just cut back because I think you're in a good spot. I like where your head's at. It's fun.
Find a nice filter.
Yeah, find the middle ground. But it's I love scenarios like that. It's so fun. So your number one dream fit is Harrison to the Chargers. It sounds
correct. Yeah, just like number 1
hard to be
pure
mad at
alpha.
that.
Yeah, get him in, and like you want to run the ball 24/7. That's great, but you need to have some sort of threat through the air. Otherwise, teams are just going to stack the box, and you're not going to be able to do what you want to do.
Yeah, and we talk about diminishing returns, right? Like I don't know if our listeners are too familiar with that concept. I didn't know what that meant until around a year ago. I was listening to a podcast that talked about when you have older veterans on your team who provide a stable, uh, um, like they fill a role really stable. They create diminishing returns because you're not upgrading. If you
Yeah.
have a guy who's doing a job at 80% consistently, that 20% is never going to get filled. It's the same reason why you shouldn't pay a Kirk Cousins or a Daniel Jones, because there's diminishing returns. You're not able to go get a Josh Allen. You're not able to go get a Pat Mahomes. You're not able to go get a Joe Burrow because you're consistently waiting for that, 20%, or you're settling for that 80%. So to talk about diminishing returns, I think that same thing applies to wide receivers and targets. So getting Keenan Allen out of there, where you know how good he can be, and getting Mike Williams out there, where you know how injury prone he is and how inconsistent he is. Whoever the Chargers pick to fill that void, that target void, the diminishing returns are all out of the way. Whoever they pick is going to be a hyper targeted number one wide receiver who gets funneled passes. And I think if it's MHJ, that's a beautiful, beautiful blessing.
It'd be such a good fit.
I'll stick with the same team. My dream fit for the Chargers is Joe Alt, because of how much Harbaugh's been talking about wanting to run the ball, how important he's been emphasizing the offensive line is. I don't know if you saw the clip where he was ranting for like 4 minutes about how important offensive line play is in the NFL.
I didn't see the clip.
That could be an additional amount of smoke, but in my opinion, it's totally fine. I think, you know what? It's not sexy at all. There is not a single thing sexy about drafting an offensive lineman at 5th, but it will be he'll be a stalwart. He's the number one offensive line prospect in the draft by a lot. It's a position you don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
Yep. And you don't have to worry about paying that position for a while. You'll have a 5th-year option at a premium position. I think, I do think their weapons will suffer. But Adrian, we've talked about how deep this class is. Go out and snag a Jalen Polk in the 2nd round. Go out and snag a Javon Baker in the 2nd round. You don't even have to worry about. You don't even have to worry about the wide receiver thing.
Amon coming in.
Yep.
To just shut me down, and that's fine.
I like where you're headed. It was fun.
So it's nice to dream, right?
Just
it's nice to play
63 mil dead cap is just not. Nobody can stomach that, really, especially not a contending team. So that's my number one. Do you want to come back with another?
I might just piggyback off that, because so to me, Joel is the number one offensive lineman. Is again another, like seen as a sure thing, and good left tackles. They just don't come along often.
Right.
That especially for what you're going to be paying him. So I actually like him to the Titans.
Yep.
It's a good fit for the Chargers. It's great, and a lot of people kind of like mocking him to the Titans. He's a big guy. So I just looked up this earlier when I was kind of researching for this. Allowed 8 total quarterback pressures and 1 sack in 2 seasons on 800 reps. He like superstar. If you want to see what Levis has got, protect the guy, and let him show you. And you know what? Maybe even take a later round quarterback to sort of develop behind.
Yeah.
But to me, you got to put Levis in the right situation, because he showed in that first game he played. He showed he's got something.
And in a handful of his games, remember the scrappy comeback against Miami.
Yeah, sparks.
Yeah,
and I always said, and I said this about Desmond Ridder, which is the other end of the spectrum. You don't have to see someone dominate first year, but you want to see sparks. So with Desmond Ridder, you saw a level of mediocre that just maintained mediocre, and his biggest stat was he hadn't thrown an interception. Levis has shown some like. You don't agree with this?
No, I'm just Desmond Ridder. You brought up his name, and I
bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
So Will Levis has shown
your take
sparks.
is spot on. To be clear, you're killing it.
Thank you. See, that's why I talk to you. It feels great.
Of course.
So that's my Joe Alt to the Titans.
Yeah, I love it, man. And I think Titan Maximum probably loves it, because Titan Maximum is he's going to be having a panic attack when the Chargers are up at 5, given how good of a fit Joe Alt is for the Chargers. Now, I'm going to come back. So you have 2. I'm going to come back with my second, and I'm going to be really, really like just totally off brand here. I'm going to talk about the Bills. So
Oh wow, that's unlike you.
I'm sure you're
That's pretty
surprised.
staggering.
So, first of all, the amount of thought Armand is putting to this is amazing. I think if you want to go with a right tackle, then Armand, I think you trade down a little bit. I think you could probably get Olu in the teens. It's risky, but I think you trade down if you want to draft a right tackle. You don't draft, in my opinion, you don't draft a right tackle at 5. I'm fine with moving Slater to right. I think that's, I think good tackles can be position versatile. So when it comes to the Buffalo Bills, Adrian, there are
You're a fan of theirs, are you?
a bit.
Yeah.
I've been known to
Casual.
I've been known to jump through tables. I don't think you can possibly. There are 200 targets void there from Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis being gone, and those targets are not Tua targets, which are good targets. They're not Herbert targets, which are good targets. They're Josh Allen targets, which are like some of the most valuable targets in the NFL, especially from a fantasy football standpoint. If you want yards, touchdowns, and production right away, I personally think being drafted to the Buffalo Bills, whoever they draft is going to be instantly a fantasy darling. I think he's going to be a fantasy superstar. Personally, Adrian, I think you go out and you get an extra second round pick for a reason. I think you package 28, you package 60, you package your first next year, and you go up into the top 10. I think 9 with Chicago, if they're content with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore as their wide receivers, which I don't know why they wouldn't be, but a lot of people have them taking my guy at number 9, which I couldn't stomach. I might throw up if it happens, but maybe you go up with the Titans at 8 and you try to make a deal there. I want Rome Odunze in a Bills uniform, and I want it bad.
That would be Adam.
Terrifying.
Yeah, it would be terrifying. The league. Yeah, I that was leaked audio of Mike McDaniels if the Bills get. I just think that dude, man, he's so special, man. He's got the size, he's got the athleticism, he's got the hands. I just don't think there's a world where I don't see that working out. So even though it's a huge risk, I think you take that first overall pick, which is going to be number 32 if you have Rome Odunze, and you send it to the Titans or the Bears, and you go out and you get your cornerstone wide receiver that we've been waiting for. We've had the diminishing returns of a 6-foot-tall wide receiver who disappears in December, January, and February. Let's go out and get the freak athlete, the freak hands, the freak size. Let's go out and get the product who, when paired with Josh Allen, it would be like Thanos. It would be like the last Infinity Stone. And then with your third round pick, go out and get whatever of the best wide receiver falls down the board, because they're going to. There's going to be a lot of them.
For sure.
There's so many.
Can I just say that I love this one? Because I had a Dunze to the Bears, right? Which I think they will take him. I think you need to get up to the 8, to be honest with you.
Probably. But why? Why? You have DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. Like, draft a receiver next year. They're being greedy.
I agree. I think they in their mind they're bringing Caleb Williams in. They want to give him so. Keenan Allen is good, but he's not great. Like, he was great, and he's also
had a great season. He had one of his best seasons of his career last year.
But you're going to have him on the field for maybe 12 games. Like, you don't often. He doesn't get a full season in.
Yeah.
So, anyway, to the point I was trying to make is that Odunze is probably personally like my favorite receiver in the draft.
Mine too.
Above MHJ, above Malik Neighbors.
Mine too.
And I think he can do it all. He's been comped to Devontae Adams, who we all know my love for Devontae Adams. So I hope he doesn't go to the Bears. I would much prefer him on the Bills, although I do think that could take you over the top.
You have Josh Allen in Superflex, bro. Of course you want him on the Bills.
Hell yeah.
You want the Bills to get one of those big 3. I'll just caveat this because you got some more fits. I got some more fits, but you take Odunze out of the equation, which I think is more realistic. Honestly, I would be interested in moving into the 14 to 19 range to get Brian Thomas Jr. I think that would be my second favorite fit for Buffalo. And then pretty much beyond those two guys, I mean, I think you stick and pick at 28, whoever's left. If it's AD Mitchell, I'm not mad. It's fine. I really like AD Mitchell as well. I like Xavier Leggett a lot in the second round. I would rather not draft him in the first. If we're going to go for Leggett, I say we trade down, but I think Xavier Worthy is a burner. He's got hands. I like Troy Franklin, Jalen Polk. I like those guys in the second and third rounds. Like, if if one of that, inevitably they're going to fall down the board. It's what happens, especially if Adrian, the QBs and the offensive tackles and the corners fly off the board like we think. If the first 5 players drafted are QBs, which I've seen mocked, I saw a mock yesterday that had 7 QBs in the first round.
Who's the 7th?
I'm trying to remember. Oh, it might have been 6. It was
it'd be Penix Jr., Bo Nix,
Bo Nix,
and
McCarthy, and then Daniels, May, and Williams.
Yeah.
How unreal would that be?
I could see that happening though. I mean, I could see the first 4 picks being a QB. If the Cardinals trade out, which they should because they've got so many holes, I could absolutely see that being the case. Armand with a bold prediction: the Bears at 9 taking Brock Bowers to pair with Komet. You know what? It's kind of scary because Brock Bowers is, and I said this on our last show, like Brock Bowers to me is potentially one of those guys we talk about, like we talk about Kelsey and Gronk, like really in that top tier eventually, not now.
Yeah, should have.
That's a scary thought.
Too. Yeah.
I think it would screw over the Jets. Your Jets, who I believe want Brock Bowers. But that's just what everyone mocks him there. But you know what? You never know until the draft.
Yeah, and Armand, if that happens and that pushes Odunze to 10, I believe. Do the Jets pick at 10?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't think the Jets would trade with the Bills. I don't think the Jets would let the Bills get up there to grab Odunze. I think they might just take Odunze. But I'm also like, again, you have Garrett freaking Wilson. Where's the consideration for the diminishing returns, Adrian? I know people think you need 2 wide receivers to win in the NFL, but what team has won a Super Bowl in the last decade?
They went and got Mike Williams, didn't they?
They went out and got Mike Williams. I don't think you need a Odunze, but I think that's another common mocked. That's another common thing, and I can't stomach it. I can't stomach it.
I have another one that you're gonna hate.
Let him rip. Oh, geez.
I don't
have my Tums with me, man. Don't make me nauseous.
This is the one, and it's actually, funnily enough, talking about the team you were talking about. So Xavier Worthy to the Chiefs, he would be so. All right,
that's
Xavier
terrifying.
Worthy to me. It is. He's poor man's Tyreek Hill. He's not Tyreek Hill, but he's got the explosiveness. He's got that, and he's not just fast. He gets separation, so he gets off the mark quick. He's not great for contested catches, but if you've got Patrick freaking Mahomes and the speed to get open, I mean, they won a Super Bowl passing to like, I'm not even, like MVS was like the reason that they might have got through something. Do you know what I mean? Now they've sent MVS off the way. They need a speed, so they need someone downhill. Xavier Worthy would be a perfect fit, and it would be terrifying, and he would kill it.
Yeah.
And it's a scary thought.
I
think for him, it's a perfect fit.
And I mean, I don't know if you brought this up. I got an email, but the Rashee Rice stuff.
Yeah, it's, you know what? Had we not spent 48 minutes on the Bills, I actually had that as a news item.
Who knows whether or not he's there, and that's scary to think about. And I feel for clearly he did some stuff, but obviously we don't want anybody to have their lives ruined. But you got to be smarter than Rice was, obviously, but. There might be a huge void of targets in that offense as well. And Rice was a good fit. Can
I jump to the defense of Rice here? I have to do it because
you and me both. We love the human side. We love advocating for humanity.
And I've had this discussion with you and Brian actually on a couple of pods. You and I, and I'm just assuming again, most of the people who would complain about Rice speed. I speed all the freaking time. The difference between me and Rashee Rice is nothing went wrong. That's it. That's the only difference. Now, this is a young guy in his prime, in a Lamborghini. Like, sure, he should not be speeding. Sure, he should not be racing. But they all probably do it. Like, when I say they, I'm talking about young NFL players.
I hear you. There's
wrong.
A couple variables that kind of reduce. Like, I obviously am always empathy first. Like, I don't judge people. Like, people make mistakes. It is what it is. But also, too, like, there was enough mistakes. Like, the rap sheet from this specific incident seems long enough that he is in some hot water. Like,
he absolutely is. He is in hot water. I guess I feel for him. That's my
point. Sure. And that's not even debatable. Like, even people who make those mistakes that are, like, you feel for Henry Ruggs, even though what happened, like you said, went
terrible, but you're right.
Couldn't have gone worse. But there's enough things there that it's like, whatever slaps on the wrist he might get, he might have earned. I don't know the truth. I don't know, But regardless, I'm always a big advocate for feeling for the people. I mean, and that's something I think will always separate this podcast from other podcasts, is we kind of tend to take that human route, that empathy route. Bowers is my third choice. Yeah.
Who's your first two?
Yeah, you got to let us know your first two, Armand. But yeah, I think Bowers to the Jets would be great. Rodgers with a weapon like that. I have actually a dream. Did you do your last prospect?
Yeah. Mine's Everworthy.
I got. Oh, that's right. I got Bowers to the Colts, and I think there was maybe a legit football headline about that. I don't remember specifically, but what I'll say is, Adrian, how many tight ends have the Colts been trying out for size in the last handful of years? How many weapons outside of Michael Pittman, who you don't believe is a true wide receiver one? How many weapons have they been trying out for size? Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, who I like. I think he's going to be a good slot guy. But Jelani Woods, Mo Alley Cox. There's another.
The current tight end one is Colin Granson. I had to Google that because I was
further proving my point. It's been a revolving door at that position, and I think Anthony Richardson needs a safety blanket. I think Josh Downs will be good for that. I think Michael Pittman is good for that. But I think the more the merrier when it comes to young quarterbacks, especially ones who are putting it together the way Richardson is. You kind of have to schedule some layups, right? You kind of have to schedule some layups.
I think, and I would assume the mocks have a tackle going to them because it's such a deep tackle class, and they got Bernard Raymond and Braden Smith.
Yeah.
I actually do like the fit you're talking about. I think you're right. You give Anthony Richardson something to just offload the ball too quickly because
some sure things. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, a tackle is going to keep you upright longer. But if you've got someone that you can get the ball out too quickly, that also helps. So I agree with you completely. I think it'd be a great fit.
Yeah. Do you have any more?
I don't have any more fits. I've got some of our guys.
Yeah.
I'm not going to discuss this one, but Cooper DeJean to the Packers because I need to throw a Packers one out there. Cornerback, love it.
Cooper DeJean to the Packers was totally one for me. That was totally one for me. And
put him alongside Jair Alexander. Forget about it.
Oh my God, Cooper DeJean is a fun prospect, man.
Yeah,
he's a fun prospect.
I just said I wasn't going to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it anyway.
Talk about it.
Jair Alexander. You got Xavier McKinney in, and then you put Cooper DeJean. That is a scary, scary secondary. Eric Stokes to come in and out. You've got Keyshawn Nixon, who I know he's a returner, but he can come in and out. And funnily enough, Cooper DeJean returns as well. He's so fast; he can take it to the house. I really love the fit, and I really look. The Packers do not have a good history of hiring good defensive coordinators. We had Joe Barry, who was terrible. Mike Pettin, who was at the door. They held on to. The name is now escaping me, which is ridiculous because I had it in my head 2 seconds ago. The name that they held on to someone for so long, I can't remember his name. That's disgusting.
You'll think of it. You'll think of it.
Yeah, it'll come to me. But they don't have a history of hiring good defensive coordinators. But I am cautiously optimistic about Jeff Hafley. And I think for his system to work, you need a secondary that is as scary as that would be.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And I think it's something that I'm hoping for you guys, especially given how much your offense has proven to be actually legitimately a strength of your team. Going out
Dom Capers. How could I forget that?
That's who it was. Yeah. Also going out and getting yourselves Josh Jacobs, looking at the weapons that you guys have on the receiving end, all young, like 4 guys really who could be.
I'm looking forward to this year. Can I say?
It's going to be fun. And Jordan Love is looking like a top 7 to 8 QB in the league right now. Could make his plays way into the top 5 this year. You guys really took the 49ers to 7 rounds.
Yeah.
Purposes. You should have beat them, honestly, if we're being realistic. You guys.
I don't want to be a homer, but I think so too. I think we.
Yeah, you guys. I think you guys outplayed them. You guys just didn't win. And that sometimes that's the thing when a team has more talent. They don't have to be as perfect to beat inferior teams. I've seen the Bills be the better team. I've seen the Bills get outplayed. But because they're the better team, they still win the game. It's just the way that the cookie crumbles sometimes. Talent can brute strength.
And luck can sometimes not sometimes luck always plays a part.
I was gonna say don't talk to me about luck, please. I can't. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
I understand.
It's too sad.
All right. So our guys, have you got a guy you want to claim as your own?
Yeah. So I think the purpose of an art guy has to be later round, right? We did last year. We called this fantasy flag plant, right? This isn't for fantasy. This is draft. We'll do draft flag plants. I'll plant some flags.
Jimmy Ray.
We miss you, Jimmy Ray. We wish you were here, man. We just got done ranting about your Colts, man. I absolutely dogged on your history of tight ends. No offense. But yeah, since Dallas Clark,
It's because you're not here. That's what happens.
Yeah, you can't defend them, so your tight ends suck. But anyways, yeah, I'm gonna look later rounds, right, just for fun because I think it's a little more exciting. I think at the wide receiver position, I love Ladd McConkey.
Yep.
If he ends up being the guy that the Bills draft, I won't be upset at all.
Comfortable.
I think he'll go out there and be the guy that the Bills want him to be. I love those prospect type players who he's a lunch pail guy, and that fits the culture in Buffalo a great deal. I like Chop Robinson. The name really does it for me. Great name. I mean, that's a big part of the reason why, but he's an edge player. I think he's a player that could be better than people think. And yeah, I'll say this. There are people who are dunking on and knocking A.D. Mitchell and Keon Coleman. I think you shouldn't sleep on those guys because of their athletic profiles.
I had A.D. Mitchell as one of my guys.
Yeah. What's the deal with the hate?
I think so. Look, there was some injury issues for him. His route running is not perfect, and I understand that. So he needs to work on some things. But as long as he stayed healthy, he's such a big dude. He's fast, he's explosive. He turns if you watch his tape, his turns and his pivots are so good. Not to be all not to be all like, oh, drafting the inside, but he's just you watch it and he jumps off the screen. Ranked 5th in PFF by receivers. I think he's a good player, and I think he's fallen because of injury. So
yeah,
but I don't know what the hate is. But I look, I had him as an out guys, but to be honest, he's probably a first rounder. So if I'm going to jump down, I've got 2 that I want to throw out there.
Yeah.
The first is a running back who I don't think we might not have a running back guy in the first round this year.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But Braylon Allen from Wisconsin, love him. But terrible combine. So he had a really rough combine, which you know what I kind of like. I don't read too much into. I don't know what your feelings are on this, but the combine to me is not the be all and end all. It's absolutely something. He's got huge vertical jump. He's in a rough running back class, and I think he's still ranked 4th or 5th down the line.
Yeah.
But I really do think he's a diamond in the rough. So
that's your guy. Out of all of them, that's the one you want to plant your flag in.
Yeah, 100%. Prototypical size. He's just got that running back size. He just needs to work on making defenders miss. At the moment, he's a bit of a basher. But if he can get some defenders to miss, he could be a 3-down back. But at the very least, he's going to be a red zone weapon. Very least.
Love that, man. Okay, cool. So Braylon Allen, A.D. Mitchell. You got any others for me?
I got one more spread. This is like a 6th or 7th round. I had to really look for this.
Yeah.
So his name is John Reese Plumlee. He's a QB out of UCF. All right. So he is not your prototype QB. All right, but he's an athletic dude. He's played running back, he's played quarterback, he's played receiver. He has athleticism. All right. So over 8 starts in 2020, and 9 tennis 2020, he ran the ball for 1,000 yards as a QB. Over 8 starts. So I would like to see him. I kind of see him as a potential Taysom Hill. Kind of gadget dude, comes in, can throw the ball.
Love those.
I would actually like to see him over to the Bucks. Go back up Mayfield. Go jump in on some trick plays. Go jump in on some fun little bits and pieces. And kind of make a name for yourself, because I don't think Mayfield will be there forever. Obviously, he's probably got a couple years left in him there. I hope not, but he may drop.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you're my guying a freaking gadget
I have
guy.
to.
That's fun.
I had to because I wanted to look. I actually put on my notes, this is a stretch, but I just wanted to have someone that if he becomes a thing, it'll be fun.
Yeah, and I'll do the same thing with a lesser known, lesser talked about prospect, but also I'll go with the running back because you did. And I think this offseason we saw a little bit of a resurgence of the running back. They're getting paid more. They're getting, more respect. People are starting to scheme for running. I think we can probably agree that I think the league is going to shift towards running with the new cover 2 shell in place and passing being down around the league. I think running running the football will pick up steam again. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why there's a reinvestment in the running back position. I like Audric Estime out of Notre Dame. I really liked him because I'm a pseudo Notre Dame fan. My family is all huge Notre Dame fan. So I watched a lot of Irish games with my cousins and my uncle. And Audric Estime just balls, man. He's just a good running back, and I think he'll profile as sort of a power back in the NFL. He's like 5'11" in the 200, so I think he'll be sort of a bowling ball type player. And I'd love a bruiser like that to
I'm
pair
just
with
looking at his
Baby Cook.
PFF. 94.2 PFF last year. Like, why is he not? And I'm going to be honest, I don't know much about him. And I was like, why is he not?
Take a look. Where's he going in
elite
drafts?
PFF?
Like, where's he on big boards? Like, does he have any?
116. What's he ranked as an RB? 2, 4, 6. So he's RB 8.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm looking at PFF's big board.
That's down the list. So that's probably
who's next? Braylon Allen.
Wow, Braylon Allen and Audric Estime. You and me are going deep running backs. That's how niche we're getting on today's pod. I love it. It's a beautiful thing. Well, we did it. Adrian, another legit football in the books. You got anything you want to say? Wrap up the show? Any more guys? Any more fits? Anything fun like that?
Nothing at all, man. It's been fun, and you know what I am going to say is you were maybe going to hit on this as well. I know we've been going kind of every fortnight recently, in the season to get in the way. So we apologize, and really appreciate the people who are still tuning in. I can
For
see
sure.
750 odd watching at the moment. So
yeah,
we love you guys, man, and we'll try and we will endeavor to be back weekly.
And there's no doubt when the season rolls around, we'll be
that's for
locked
sure.
in. But before then, even at some point, there's the dog days, right? I think confidently, I'll say I think we can all be really solid around training camp time and the lead up to that. But we'll do our best to keep getting these sporadic ones out there, and we'll try to be as weekly as possible. I'd love to get Jimmy on at least once or twice before the draft.
Sure.
Hey,
we got to pull this out.
That's wonderful. Wow, man.
109. What's that? Sorry, I'm Aussie. What's that in kilos?
That's a lot. Good job, man. Yeah, we love you. And we
done.
Yeah, that's impressive. That's impressive.
Dude, that is amazing.
And we love Himmy. Miss that handsome devil. Himmy says running game might stay similar, but utilizing the RB in a variety of different ways. Yeah, I love a pass catching running back. That is like one of
that's becoming the commodity, right?
Oh man, and
you can catch out the backfield.
It's a beautiful thing. All right, well, this has been another episode of the Legit Football Podcast. That's Adrian Revito from Down Under, and I'm Kevin Phillip Fox, and we are out.